get that one for you as well.
Okay, so let's take shoulders to that way. Hi everybody, welcome back to Chat with Clients, where we talk about brand, marketing, and the images that brings all of that together. Today I'm joined by Chandler Crews, CFO at Cogburn Brothers in Jacksonville, who's been a respected name in the region for almost 50 years. And recently they decided to do something a little bit different and contacted me, and they've invested money into new team headshots and refreshing their approach to their brand. So welcome, Chandler.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's great to see you. So let's start with some background, and for everybody that's listening and watching, tell us about Cogburn Brothers and what you guys do and what's made the business so enduring over the years.
Yeah, so Cogburn Brothers was founded in 1977 by Ron and Larry Cogburn here in Jacksonville, Florida. And we are an electrical and mechanical subcontractor, and we specialize in water, wastewater treatment facilities, as well as things like critical power, and we work in a lot of different manufacturing plants throughout the Southeast. This is our 49th year in business, so exciting. We've got our 50th year next year. And one of the things that's really made the company so enduring is the family atmosphere. And a lot of companies say it, but we really live it. We don't necessarily live by mottos or mission statements, but how we actually treat people and what it feels like to work here. And that's echoed by the tenure of a lot of the guys that have worked here since they were 18 years old. Myself included, many people have never worked anywhere else, and it's really a family environment, somewhere that we all enjoy working and going to every Monday.
Yeah, I found it really interesting as people were coming through to get the headshots done. I just talking with them for a few minutes, and the length of tenure was incredible, and it's refreshing to hear that nowadays. That people stick around for a long time. And I remember at the end of the photo session talking with you and saying, this culture is incredible that you guys have developed over the years. I guess a culture like that is not something that happens overnight. It's taken, for almost 5 decades to get that, as you said, that family feel, which is definitely there. I'm a witness to that. So yeah, it's great. So let's talk about marketing. So let's discuss 2026, which is a year that it seems like everything's kind of changing. There's different platforms. There's different audience expectations. So what are the challenges and shifts that you see in your own marketing?
Yeah, so one of the things that, like as I just said, that we pride ourselves on is our image and the environment that we have. But the question is, how do we portray that to other people outside the organization? As we continue to expand our operation into new areas, new industries, and continue to push and grow. We know our brand, but how do we portray that to other people? And some of the challenges, one that you were able to help us accomplish is being able to put a name to a face. It's very important in this industry to know who you're talking to. It's a very in-person industry, to know who's on the other side of the phone or who may be on the other side of the screen. And we were able to accomplish that through headshots, and we'll be able to use those, in all sorts of different ways, and to really showcase, here's our people, here's our core group of employees, the people that really make the company function.
Yeah, that was again, it was interesting, having these little conversations as I was working with you guys, and the uses for the headshots, the different departments and different people, apart from the outward or public facing images of websites, etc., how they'll use those in things like RFPs and even like internally, so that because you don't see each other every day, so to see them the headshots being used internally was also great. So so let's talk a little bit more about brands and kind of lean into that that I think we're in that era now where people they're really hungry to see that human aspect of a business and not just a logo or brand colors. They really want to know who's behind the business. So is that something that you're looking to push more into with Cogburn Brothers marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in just the modern age with all the different social media platforms and all the different digital advertising that people take in on a consistent basis, it's sort of refreshing to know that there is a person behind a brand. There are real people running that company and that you're working with, and it's important to us to maintain that real culture and that people know that we're real people and we're no different than anyone else. We work really hard. We enjoy each other. We enjoy what we do. And the question is, how do you put that out there? How do you get in contact with those people versus just another LinkedIn post or something that people interact with multiple times per day?
Yeah, I find from my own perspective, being the visual arts, the number of people that comment to me, we went with you because we saw your picture on LinkedIn. I put loads of pictures on LinkedIn. Saw your picture on LinkedIn, or had somebody last week said, "Yeah, I booked you because I liked your picture on your website." So we recently, it was about 6 weeks ago, we worked together on creating the headshots for you guys, um, which is the first in almost 50 years, which is pretty wild. I think it's a pretty big step to go, 49 years without, and now taking that leap into 2026. It's I think it's really huge. So um, a couple questions that are jumping to mind here. First, the first part of the question is, how does that fit into your broader marketing? And you've hinted on that just now. And then secondly, the second part is the selfish part, I guess, is how was the process working with us?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, how it fits into our broader marketing is again just trying to show people that, there is a face behind the screen or behind the phone. And I think it's encouraging when you can go on a website or go on someone's LinkedIn profile and see a professional picture. And I think it really, says a lot about the company too, if you're willing to invest that time and money into something like that and include everybody, company wide that just shows people another way of how the company cares for their employees and the people that work there. And the process was very seamless. It was great. I filled the form out on the website. I got a call back, I think, in less than an hour. We were able to go through the different options. You did a on-site visit beforehand to scope out the area, what would work best, how we're going to be most efficient. The digital scheduling link that was sent out was super, super helpful. It allowed people to, you know, uh, sign up for a time slot that worked best for them. Just the whole thing. And then the day of the pictures, it went as seamlessly as it could, trying to schedule over 50 people and get through 50 people in one day. That's a difficult task, and being able to work through that and all the little challenges and wardrobe and things like that. It really went great. We're very satisfied.
Good. Yeah. It's particularly when you have people. I mean, it's one thing having, say 50 people in one location, but when you've got people out, I think it's really important that they get scheduled so that it works for them. And I think the most important aspect of that is keeping it very efficient so that they're not away from their jobs. Because, if it's going to cost the company a day's worth of production, that's expensive. That can be really expensive. So to keep it moving and just keep people with a first class headshot, but shot within 10 minutes, and it keeps them on the job. Stops them having to take hours off. To get the headshot. So yeah, I think it's really important. I totally agree with you on that one. All right, on we go. Um, so, we get the crystal ball out, we're kind of looking into the future. Do you see marketing for companies like yourselves evolving even further through professional type photography, be it, at the beginning of branding, like with a headshot, and then into branding and content creation and things like that. Do you think that those, things are going to grow and companies are going to need to take advantage of those things to stay ahead? Or do you think it's all going to go AI?
No, I definitely think it's going to grow and continue to evolve. I mean, my personal opinion, I think in the world of AI, when you see so many things that are AI generated and sort of fake cartoon like, and it works in some things, but I think it's refreshing for people to see a real photo, a lot, whether that be of an individual or the work that the company does or performs. I think that's super refreshing to see something that's authentic when much of social media now is consumed by AI generated content, and I think photography will not only stay where it's at but continue to expand and become more important.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're kind of on a little bit of a threshold. The AI thing, I think, has reached that peak now, and people are going to realize, well, wait a minute, it's good for a lot of things, but that's my image out there. And in fact, I was reading this morning on LinkedIn, somebody had gone somewhere in the US, it wasn't right here, going to get a headshot, and her comment was, I used an AI headshot and I can't use it. It's not me. So I agree with you on that end of things that we will see that continue. And interesting, it's it's part of marketing, isn't it? Whether years ago, if you had a product, you said, okay, well, we're going to budget millions of dollars to launch this product on TV because we know at 7 p.m. there's 25 million people watching this show. Or if you really want to push your business forward, you have to invest in the newer technologies, invest in photography, original photography, professional photography for your website and for all your outward facing imagery. I think it's super important. And love it or hate it, AI, it will find itself. So, that the search engines use AI to crawl over websites. And I know that in the past they said, okay, well, that's a smartphone picture. That's a stock photo. This is a professional photo, and you get ranked down because you're using, not real photography. Chandler, it's been great kind of catching up and chatting with you. I've loved working with you guys and just love to hear the stories from everybody. I've always said this. I think it's super important that when we shoot a headshot or portrait that's going to be outwardly facing, that it's important that it's authentic. So when somebody sees my picture on my website or on LinkedIn and they meet me, it's the same person. And it's not been over retouched or AI generated, and that authenticity, I think it creates trust or it can create distrust. And what we need to do in our marketing is create trust immediately. So I advised one of my clients a couple of weeks ago, look, this picture we just shot, that one there, you need to put this right on the top of your website. When people hit your website, they see your picture, and he's in a very competitive field. And, so they know you, they trust you right away before they've even gone through your website. And I think that's so important that we do that. I think we need to do more of that. I don't know that everybody does that. I'm pretty sure they don't, but people should. Our companies should. And I'm going to close with this thought that I really believe that companies like yourselves that do trust, love your workers, your team, invest in those headshots and that photo day. On the grand scheme of things, it's not a big investment, but it could have a massive ROI in terms of employee retention and then obviously new client acquisition. So anyway, listen, it's been great chatting with you today and catching up. I love working with you guys and hearing all the stories that I was shooting you. So, or photographing you guys. Do you have any last comments before we hang this up or call it a wrap?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the headshots were a very good first step for us. We love the final product, and I think it's one small step in the direction of marketing and expanding our image that we want. And we really enjoyed working with you as well, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. I really enjoyed it.
Okay, that looks great.